All right, I'm gonna take this armature and just put it in the lathe and spin it and see what it looks like and do a little something to clean it up here. So looks like it's relatively straight, and I'm gonna get some sandpaper. I don't like to use emery cloth on the commutators because it has a tendency to deposit little pieces of strips in there, but this is relatively flat. So I don't think I'm gonna turn it, given that it's already been turned down or worn down or torn down almost 3/8 of an inch. So I don't wanna take any more off. So I'm gonna just clean that up and then we'll see about testing it. I got all the grooves nicely sanded out of this, and now I'm gonna go at it with a little bit of 2000 to just shine it up, making sure it's nice and smooth. All right, I got it all polished up. Use a little 2000, just lightly cleaned out these grooves a little bit, blew it all out with air, got it nice and clean. So this should be ready to test and just see if it's, make sure it's okay. Well, now we're to the point of testing this armature. And what I'm using here are two things. One is just your standard multimeter with an ohm ability to read ohms. And then I have a growler. This is a model T11 growler from CE Niehoff. And I bought this about 40 years ago at the Pate swap meet when I was a kid. And so there's really kind of 4 tests you can do on an armature. The first of which, number 1, is you can use this growler to test for a ground. So this is merely a continuity tester. So if this is grounded to this, the light will come on, which it doesn't. If you have a continuity test meter, you can do the same thing with that. So you can hear the buzz. So what you're really trying to do is make sure that this shaft is not ground to one of these commutators. So you can just wipe these brushes. You don't really want to do it hard to where you scratch it. If they're grounded, they'll make a noise. So you just want to wipe this test here just to make sure that there's no direct shorts between the commutators and the armature. That's test 1. Test 2 is actually using the growler. This sets up a magnetic field just like the coil wires, and if there's a short in these windings, then it'll make this hacksaw blade vibrate. So I'm going to turn it on and just wipe it over the edge of this, and at no point is it actually hanging up and grinding. So that's test number 2. If this were bad when it gets to one of these deals, it would vibrate like this. That's getting in the magnetic field, so it would do like that. But these are all good. So that's test number 2. Test number 3 is called the 180 test, and to do that, you put your ohm meter on the lowest settings. Unfortunately, my ohm meter goes to 200 ohms, and it really needs to be lower than that. But you'll get the idea that if you take these probes while it's on the ohm setting, and my ohm meter goes down to, if you test your probes themselves, they go down to 0.1, which is probably barely over 1. But you want to probe each one of these commutators, the one next to the other, and look at the ohms. So this is 0.2. And I go to this one, 0.2. And I go to this one, 0.2. So I'm going to go all the way around this, checking each commutator next to the adjacent commutator. It doesn't really matter what the ohm reading is, because the ohm readings are set for different, based on the windings and the voltage and so forth. So it doesn't really matter. What you're really looking for is anything that's a spike. If my ohm meter went down lower, it would be reading like 1.7, 1.8, maybe 2.1. You just don't want one of these pairs to either have a big spike or a big drop. So if it's a big spike or a big drop, then that's going to indicate that there's a problem. The last test, number 4, is the 180 test. So you're going to do the same thing, but you're going to test the commutators opposite each other. So when I do this, 0.2 just under 3. When I do this, can't tell which one of these is actually opposite each other. It drops down to 0.2 just under 3. 0.2 just under 3. 0.2 just under 3. So I'm going to walk all the way around these commutators to make sure in the 180 test. So that's 4 tests. The Growler test for the armature, a direct short between the commutator and the shaft, the 180 test, and the adjacent test. So if an armature passes all these tests, which it looks like this one will, this should be a good armature, no problem. So I'm going to go ahead and walk through all these tests individually on this, and but it looks like it's going to be good. So that's a good thing. Well, I hope you learned something today. If you did, consider subscribing to the channel, and don't forget to ring that bell so you get notification of future videos that will be equally as exciting as the one you just watched. Now, before you go, give me a thumbs up on the video and drop a comment in the comment box if you got any kinds of questions or just think you got a sound off on something. If you have something specific you want to know how to do, well, leave me a comment and I'll see if I can't capture some content for a future video. Hope you have a great day, and I'll see you back here for another Resto-Rat episode real soon.
Download the Resto-Rat app today to begin managing, tracking, and documenting your restoration project.